Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the questions from your AMath textbook, the questions on Trigo, further Trigo from chapter 13. I believe these questions were given to you guys to try out on Monday. So yeah, I'm going to go through the first question now. I think this is a question that some of us might have a problem with. Okay, I think this question is pretty kind in a sense. They give you a hint that you need to express this as 60 plus 45 degrees to get cosine of 105. Sometimes the question may not even tell you. I mean, I give you other examples. Uh, for example, sometimes the question can say, find exact value of sine, say, I don't know, sine 75 degrees, for example. Now, the question doesn't give you a hint of how to express 75 degrees as a sum of two angles. And then what do we have to do? Now, the key idea is to make use of special angles. Okay, whatever values that's given to you, make sure that it's expressed as a sum of two special angles. Okay, not to worry, the question will not give you weird values like 76 degrees, 112 degrees, but it will usually be a case of the addition or the subtraction of two special angles. And I mentioned about special angles here. Some of you may be thinking, what exactly do I mean by special angles? Remember, actually last time we went through special angles are angles like, for example, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Yep, these are your so-called special angles, and usually the values that we give you can involve usually revolves around the addition or the subtraction of these values over here. Okay, so let's say for example, to answer my question, sine 75 degrees, how can I express it as a sum of two special angles? And usually be a case of sine of 30 plus 45. And you realize the question does not restrict you to using subtraction or addition. So let's say, for example, I give you another question. For example, say the question asks you to find cosine of 15 degrees, for example. Then in this case, how? How can I make use of my special angles? Express it as either subtraction or addition. Well, very straightforward. It will be 45 minus 30. That should give me cosine 15. Okay, yeah. So that's the key idea over here. So let's go back to answering this question. Okay, so you're asked to find cosine of 105 degrees, and then it's cosine of 60 plus 45. Okay, now this is actually a test of your understanding of the addition formula. So cosine addition formula for cosine will be cosine 60 plus, sorry, cosine 45 minus sine 60 sine 45. Yep. Now at this juncture, if you really can't remember the trigo ratio of the special angles, it's okay. Dive straight into your calculator. Let's say I key in cosine 60 degrees. Oh, actually it's equals to half. Now what we want to see is whether you are able to express the exact values of these respective trigo ratios. When we say find the exact value, or sometimes when the question says do not use calculator, so you can so-called cheat in the extent of like using the calculator value first. Using calculator first. Okay, so let's say for example I forgot what is cosine 45. Okay, I key into my cosine 45 into a calculator. Is actually okay, maybe I just write it over here. According to a calculator is 0.7071, so on and so forth. Okay, now in this case, if you can recall, you need to be able to express this in third form, and what I can remember is actually 1 over square root 2. Okay, if you don't believe me, you can key this into your calculator. 1 over square root 2, you should actually get back this as well. Okay, and sine 60 in this case is 0.8660. So again, I recall that it's actually square root 3 over 2. Alright, so you can key into your calculator, square root 3 over 2, it should give you the same value as sine 60 degrees. And sine 45 is again 0.707, which is actually 1 over square root 2. So what we'd like to see here is this: when the question says find the exact value or do not use the calculator, question is expecting you to give the exact values of the trigo ratio of these special angles. Then what we have to do is just go and expand and simplify. Okay, so upon evaluation, this is the answer that you guys would get. Okay, and you can leave it as such. So some of you may be thinking, is it necessary for us to, rationalize the denominator? Well, actually, in the context of solving trigo ratio, questions like this involving trigo, there is no need for you to rationalize unless stated by the question. However, if you are talking about a typical search question from chapter 2, where they ask you to rationalize the given fractions, then you are expected to rationalize. But in this case, involving trigo, if the question did not prompt, you can leave your final answer insert form for the denominator. It's cool. Yeah. Okay, next, moving on to part B. Well, over here we have cosine of 3 pi over 2 minus 2x. You're supposed to show this. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys can remember, but this is a typical proving identity question. So you need to choose one side and work towards the other side. So in this case, I would suggest that we choose from the left hand side. Okay, so this is how I represent cosine of 3 pi over 2 minus 2x. Apply my addition formula. This is what you should get. Sorry, there should be a plus. Okay, now at this juncture, if you can't recall what is the value of cosine 3 pi over 2, you may go straight into your calculator. Please take note, the mode of your calculator in this case should be in terms of radian because pi is being used here. However, if you want to use in degree, then just have to convert the pi into degree mode, yeah? So if I key this into my calculator, oh, this is actually 0. 0 times cosine 2x plus -1 times sine 2x. Okay, now this is pretty straightforward. It's just negative sine 2x, and you realize I've actually shown that is equals to the right hand side. And happily, I will just put shown. Okay, so moving on to the second part, you're supposed to sketch this. Y equals to 2 cosine 3 pi over 2 minus 2x plus 3. But what we have just shown is that this fella over here is actually just straight away equals to negative sine 2x. Okay, so this is the graph that I have to draw. Okay, so this is, at the end of the day, this is the trigo graph that you should get. Now notice that my sine graph is actually a reflection along the x-axis because of the negative sign. Yep, and take note of the amplitude is actually 1, and therefore my maximum value is 4 and my minimum value is 2 because the 3 over here will cause the graph to either move up, to actually move up by 3 units. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the graph that I should get, and that is the final solution to A1 Part B. Hope you guys managed to get that. Okay, thank you.